Good Friday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Browns continue to get ready, putting the final touches on preparation to head to Detroit to face the Lions on Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff at Ford Field. Third-string quarterback Shedeur Sanders was asked about having to sit and wait to play.
I don't think playing or not playing, is in my hands. I think based on the situation, it's if things happen, things turn out where I play, then I'll be out there and I'll be ready to play. I said, I'm ready to play right now.
He had a great quote where he said, you don't learn anything. I've never sat on the bench and said, I learned a lot today.
Yeah.
Do you agree with him on that? What are your thoughts when he said
that? Everybody perspective. So, that's not nothing, in my place to answer. That's nothing I can't not answer, but I know for sure I'm not. I know if you see the quarterback play in the league right now, I know I'm capable of doing better than that.
A lot has been made about Shedeur Sanders saying that if you watch the league play in quarterbacks that he's ready to play, he knows he can do that. I have no problem at all with him saying that. In fact, that's how Shedeur Sanders should feel. He has to feel that way as a potential NFL quarterback. Now, I'm not quite sure why we're interviewing the third-string quarterback who hasn't been active for an NFL game yet, regular season game, let alone play in a regular season game where you have game plans. But again, I have no problem whatsoever with Sanders' answers. I'm pretty sure, though, nobody with the Steelers is asking Will Howard, does he think he's ready to play? All right, Lions head coach Dan Campbell. How important first down is for this Lions offense going against the Browns on Sunday?
The more you get in these what feel like passing situations, man, that they'll get after you. They can really cut it loose, and with that front four, they play fast. Penetrating style defense. So they know first down's big for them. They're looking for second longs, and that's when they really have a lot of success. So yes, first down's going to be big for us. We cannot get behind the sticks. We got to stay in the green, because if not, it'll be a long day.
And that Browns interior defensive line has a little bit of an advantage. The Lions are strong on the tackles. Penei Sewell is one of the best tackles in football. The center and the guards a little inexperienced relative to the rest of the line, so the Browns' defensive tackles want to get after Jared Goff and create some havoc. Nathan Zagura, Browns radio analyst, talking about what the Browns need to do to come away with a win against the Lions.
They've got to start off by slowing down a great run game, and I think the offense coordinator of the Detroit Lions gave the Browns, not that they need any more ammunition. These are professionals, obviously, but, he said we haven't seen a run game like theirs yet, and on one level, in terms of their production, he would be correct. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they've combined so far this season to rush for over 410 yards. They have 6 rushing touchdowns between the two of them, which is the most of any running back room in the National Football League. But the Browns have gone out and shut down the number 1 rushing attack in the league from last year, certainly the Baltimore Ravens. Then they shut down Josh Jacobs, who had come in on a historic heater. He'd scored a rushing touchdown in 11 straight games. They kept him out of the end zone and limited him to just over 2 yards a carry. So we've done a good job against the run, and that's going to be key again. You've got to do a good job against the run, because when Jared Goff is able to get in that good rhythm and they can use that play action, they do a great job of marrying the run and the pass. He is as deadly, and he is so underrated, so underappreciated, leading the league right now at 77.9% completions, 120 rating. He's been simply sensational. And so if you can try to turn them into a drop-back passing team, I'm not saying it's going to guarantee success, but at least it gives you an opportunity for success. And then on the flip side, we've got to score points. We've got to score points. We have not scored 20 points in a game without Jameis Winston as the quarterback since Joe Flacco helped the Browns beat the Jets on Thursday night and clinch the playoffs at the end of 23.
That, more than anything, will tell you how much this offense has struggled. But relative to Jared Goff, pressure from the interior in his face, no quarterback likes that, especially not Jared Goff. Former NFL quarterback Chris Sims with his thoughts on this Browns-Lions matchup.
A potentially dangerous Cleveland team. Dan Campbell already talking up the Browns defense, trying to keep his guys' attention. Will it work?
Well, I don't think he's going to have to keep it much, right? Because they're going to turn on the film and go, holy shit, Cleveland's defense is insane. That's what they're going to say.
There we go.
It's going to wake them up because, Mike, you heard me talk about it a little bit on Wednesday. I studied them pretty thoroughly on Monday afternoon. I was blown away. It was the first time I'd really looked at them on film in the regular season. They're amazing at all three levels. Jim Schwartz has reinvented himself and doing some different things that are not accustomed to Jim Schwartz's defense. So they're going to give everybody problems. The problem is the Cleveland offense, and what can they do there? And the number one thing I think they can do is run the ball with Quinshon Judkins. I just don't think you're going to be able to do that against Detroit. I think this is one of those where Cleveland hangs around for a while and Detroit puts them away late. Like, we could be sitting there, 14-13 Lions. They score early fourth quarter. It's 20-13 or 21-13. And then a late score puts them away. That's kind of how I feel it. I'm going 28-13 Lions in this one.
We will talk plenty about the Browns and the Browns-Lion matchup coming up. Garrett Bush, Lance Reisland, as well as Dalton Wasserman from PFF. But first, we're going to turn our attention to the Guardians. Guardians trying to get the sweep of the Tigers at Progressive Field last night. Parker Messick on the mound for the Guardians, and Messick was in trouble very early. Jamal Jones, the leadoff hitter, gives the Tigers a 1-0 lead with a deep blast to left field. A couple of batters later, still in the first, Wencel Perez. That one a little more towards center, but still over the fence. 2-0 Tigers. And the Tigers offense just getting rolling. Javier Baez, an RBI single, makes it 3-0 Tigers in the second. Guardians get a run back. CJ Kafis, that one's trouble to right center. An RBI double, 3-1. But in the fourth inning, Riley Green, and this one, it just keeps going, and that is just crushed. Solo home run for Riley Green made it 4-1. 4-2 is the final. So the Guardians and the Tigers now dead even, top of the Central Division, each with 3 games left. The Guardians have a 3-game series against the Rangers that starts tonight at Progressive Field. And the Tigers, 3 games with the Red Sox, who are trying to wrap up the wild card spot. The Guardians, in essence, have the tiebreaker. So they have a 1-game lead. Magic number, if you're into those things, to clinch the division is 3. That means this weekend, any combination of Tigers losses, Guardians wins equaling 3. The Guardians win the Central Division. They are still in the mix for that 3rd wild card spot as well. Slade Ciccone gets the start for the Guardians tonight. He'll be going against Jack Leiter for the Rangers. Again, Guardians trying to bring home the Central Division crown, dead even with the Tigers. Final game of the season, a final series of the season gets going tonight. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is up first talking Browns. We'll be right back on Sports for CLE. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day. Put a little play in your day.
Browns are up first on Sports for CLE. Head coach Kevin Stefanski a little bit ago met with the media. Big question. Will Jack Conklin be able to go and play this week against the Lions?
Progressing, yeah. Getting better each day.
Are you optimistic that he'll be able to go?
Hard to say. I really think you have to take it day by day.
Do you think it'd be come down to like it was in Baltimore where he, pregame workout, something like that?
Potentially.
Have you made a decision on who your tackles are going to be, or is it dependent on?
Yeah, I think it's all interrelated.
With that, let's welcome in Garrett Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and the Barbershop. What he's politely saying is, if Jack can't go, we don't have great options, G. Bush.
He's saying, look, hey, I would like to get him out there myself. It's a game time decision. We're going to see how he get out there and move around a little bit. But, it's hard. With the elbow injury, that's one of the pieces and parts of offensive lineman that you can't really go out there and play around with because that's your whole toolkit. As a tackle, you got to punch. You got to deliver a blow. You have to be able to get your hands on these defensive ends and linemen to keep your quarterback clean. So anytime that you have an elbow injury and you need to lock out and you need to extend, those guys are looking for it. Like, the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, they're looking to swat and swim. They're looking to push-pull. They're looking to hit your elbow. They're looking to swipe through on some of those moves. And if you're compromised with what you can do with your hands, you're pretty much dead in the water. So I can understand how he's saying, I don't know. We'll just have to figure out what we're doing. From what I'm hearing, it's a pretty extensive thing that he's dealing with. I'm sure he wants to be out there, but if the Cleveland Browns, if they want to beat this team, they're going to have to play better and get better protection at your tackle positions, because right now everything is like playing in the phone booth right now. Teams are sitting on the underneath stuff, and to get some shot plays to throw the ball downfield, you're going to have to get more than 2.5 seconds of time to let some of those routes develop. So hopefully we can see Jack Conklin. DeJuan Jones is out the rest of the year. On film, Cornelius Lucas looked pretty bad. The other tackle graded out at a 13 or 14% pass blocking. So it's a tough uphill battle if you don't have that, especially going against those guys in Detroit on that turf.
Now, having said that, they did load up practice squad 2 tackles with NFL playing experience last week. They brought in Taylor Mumford this week, so they're making moves. Browns network radio analyst Nathan Zagura talked about the offensive line struggles.
The issues at tackle, they're real. I mean, Cornelius Lucas has given up 19 pressures so far in 3 games. That's amongst the league leaders. And Joe Flacco, I think, knowing his mobility limitations, he's sped up a little bit. So I think there are times when there are plays to be made down the field, but necessarily we're getting our eyes down and we're saying, let's get rid of this football and avoid the big play. You think about the fact we were only sacked 2 times last week. It's kind of amazing. That was a game for pass rushing aficionados on both sides of the ball. Both of those quarterbacks were under duress all game long, from Miles to Micah, Rashawn Gary, who's the NFL's leader in sacks. Miles obviously is second, and everybody else in between. Both teams have good rushers from the interior, which we saw with Malik and Mason and Aiden Huntington. Alex Wright got to the quarterback. So that was a pass rushing bonanza. We have to hope this one is for us. But for the Lions, it's much more Aiden Hutchinson and kind of that's it on that line. So we've got to do a good job with him.
19 pressures in 3 weeks. That's reminiscent. That's turnstile stuff. I mean, if you're going to be out there, you got to be better than that. And it might just be that he's an older guy. It might be that's what he's got left.
Yeah, I watched it on film. I ran it back on the all 22, and from a lineman perspective, does not have very good bend. He's not getting in his kick slide. He's not getting back to meet meaningful punches in terms of, it's all who gets the first meaningful punch. And I get it. They're going against Micah Parsons, and, it is what it is. But, this is a problem, with the Browns because you got a guy who's 34, 35 years old, and you bring him in as your swing tackle, and he's playing week 3. It doesn't get any easier. Aiden Hutchinson is a guy who's going to play with his hair on fire. He's going to get after you, right? Like, it's not like there's any rest for the weary. Like, there's no, hey, well, look, they had Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons. We don't have, the Lions will be, no, that's not what it is, right? So, there is no easy games on the schedule. It's not going to ease up. I just don't want people to fall into this thing where everybody believes, this the hard part of the schedule. Will it get easier? Well, no, that's not the way the NFL works. I thought you probably thought the Packers thought the Cleveland Browns would possibly be an easy game, right? Correct? That didn't turn out so well for them. This is the NFL. Every week is a different challenge. Every week gives you a unique set of circumstances or obstacles or opportunities that you have to face every single week. So this is going to be a very tough game. But for the Cleveland Browns to get where they need to go, they gotta find some stuff at tackle, and it also plays into the role of Joe's not mobile. He's a statue back there. So it's going to be even more difficult for those tackles because now you can at least expect somebody to step up in the pocket or maybe extend the play or get out of some trouble. But that's not Joe's game, never been his game, and it's definitely not his game being 40-plus years old behind the center.
Well, one thing that we saw, Quinshon Judkins, again, looked good. A couple of big runs in critical situations. Lions head coach Dan Campbell, his thoughts on what he has seen from the Browns rookie running back Quinshon Judkins.
Well, you can tell he's getting better. I mean, there was, a couple of runs. It took him a minute, but, I think what you saw late in the game, man, he hit 2 back-to-back runs. At one of them, there was an unblocked defender on the edge, and he just made him miss, and he took off for, 16 yards, and the next one's over 38-yard run. So you can tell his confidence is growing. The old line likes him over there, and he's getting better and better. And I'm sure they're going to want to give him the ball and let him go. So he's a young, promising player in this league, and he's only going to get better too.
The thing I like about Judkins, there's not a lot of 0 or 1 yard gains. The 0 and 1 yard gains we're seeing with Jerome Ford are 2, 3, 4 yard gains with Quinshon Judkins because he gets upfield and he gets to the line quickly. When you look at this Lions defense, what do the Browns need to do? They need more offense than they've got. What do they need to do offensively?
Well, I would like to see, first of all, you have to establish the run. The most disappointing part about it is it seems like Mr. Campbell understands what they want to do. So please be mindful that the Detroit Lions are well aware of who is their best playmaker out there right now. And Judkins is a guy who has a star underneath his name on that scouting report. So look for a lot of guys in the box. Look for a lot of people, as you said before. Thing about Judkins is the key to a good running back is it's not about you coming off the ball, blowing everybody out, and they got 5 yards before you get touched. In the league, it's very tough sledding when it comes to the run. Teams are predicated on stopping that first and foremost. So what you need to be doing is making guys miss. You have to make the first guy miss. That's where your money is made in the league. Backs that can do it. We had one here for a long period of time, Nick Chubb. He's able to do it. You got to make guys miss. In terms of what's going on with this game, I think you need to also continue to see if you could try to run those games. But for me, I like the 12 personnel. I like the 12 personnel with 2 tight ends in the game, but I want to run it in shotgun as well. I think your 2 best pass catchers right now are David Njoku and Harold Fanning Jr. So why not get him in those games? So now you can either block up Aiden Hutchinson and keep somebody in and then release it and have Harold Fanning Jr. Working on a linebacker or working on a smaller safety, or you can still do some things with running the football, being physical. I like to see more 12 personnel in the shotgun doing that. Isaiah Bond, get him on a reverse, get him some quick stuff early, some screens, motions, and getting guys very, make sure that when you are running motion, make sure it is specific and is intentional. And what I mean by that is get guys clean releases. If you know guys are sitting on routes, make those guys have to think and move, not just move them in motion, but bring them back, move them in motion, get them a free release and get them over to some mesh routes, some routes that are crossing, some things that have confused the defense. And then the last thing I would need to see, where's the double moves? Hey, if you get the ball working, right? Let's go max protect, double move. Let's see if we can get them to bite on some of those things. Because the first 2 weeks in all 22, you see Green Bay, you see the Ravens sitting on all those underneath routes. Some of the mesh concepts they want to run, some of the the flood concepts or the high-low concepts that they want to run on the drives. Guys are sitting underneath that. So now, hey, let's run the dig and go. Let's run the slant and go. Let's run some things where it's the out and up. Give them something to watch and then go take your shot plays. But when you do it, like we had the flea flicker last week, when you run those plays, there's 3 or 4 of them a game. You got to hit them. Joe missed a wide open Isaiah Bond. He checked it down to a tight end on the flea flicker. Those are plays you work on all week. You get the coverage. You get it that you want what you want. You got to be able to hit on those plays.
The other thing I would say is they're not winning on first down, and that's one of the reasons they're having trouble throwing the ball is because it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. You got to get 2nd and 6. Then you got a chance to to put the defense back where they have to respect the run, and you can potentially, get that extra split second for Joe Flacco to throw.
Yeah, you got first down. And you go back and in this game, you hear what the Lions said. The Lions coach talked about his offensive line in the running game. He said, listen, guys, we're right now doing a great job of being in 2nd and 6, and we have to stay within the nice down and distance. Now, think about it. They got Goff. They got Amon St. Brown. They got Jamison Williams. They got Laporta. They got Montgomery, and they got Jahmyr Gibbs in one of the top 3 offensive line. So if they're saying to you, hey, we got to stay within a manageable down and distance, well, guess what the Cleveland Browns need to be doing? They need to double that because they don't have some of those weapons. So like you said, first down is completely it's the most important down in football because what you do on first down dictates what you do on third down.
Yeah, and they're getting killed on first down offensively. That's one of the reasons the offense has been struggling. Garrett Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear more from Dan Campbell, talk more about the Browns-Lions game. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Barber Shop. Earlier today, Lions head coach Dan Campbell asked by the media if he was concerned about his team letting down against the Browns.
We're very aware of what's coming in here. All right, that's a big win those guys got. They had to fight their way back to get that W, and they did everything right at the end of the game to get it done, and they willed that to happen, so they got the fight in them. This defense, I've already mentioned, I think is the best that we will have faced. Green Bay was damn good, but this defense is really good, man. So we got our hands full over there, and offensively, man, they're going to ball control. Flacco's seen every look you can see. They're going to lean on the rookie, and so we know what's coming in here.
So, G. Bush, cross off the overlooking the Browns on your bingo card because it doesn't sound like and that's the thing. The way this defense is playing, nobody's going to overlook them because it's going to be a battle for your offense each and every week.
Yeah, listen, that overlooking stuff, I mean, I guess I'm more into overlooking guys if we were talking about, I don't know, college football, where sometimes you may have an underdog coming in, you come off a big rivalry game where it was emotional or a game on the road and you come back home and you're playing a team maybe that is from the MAC or the Sun Belt or not a Power 5 team and you sleepwalk through the first half and you're only up 17-3, right? That kind of I can get that. But when you talk about the NFL, and you got a coach like Dan Campbell, that's not a thing because he understands each and every week those guys got good players. And when you got a guy like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and you got one of the best defenses in the league, the top defense right now, you're not sneaking past nobody. No one's going to take you for granted, especially when you come off a game in which the Green Bay Packers probably thought for 3 quarters and 3 3/4 parts of the game that they dominated. The Dolphins couldn't do anything. They were going to get out there with that win, and the Browns showed you what happens when you let people hang around. When you let people hang around, it gives them an opportunity where things can happen. You get the interception. The rookie kicker comes up with a big kick, so you end up losing a football game that everybody was necessarily think was in the grass. You turn around and lose that. So that coming off that game against a division opponent, right? You talk about the NFC North. You're going to have a situation where Dan Campbell's going to say, no, you saw what happened to Packers. Let's click this game on. And remember what the Packers did to us a little bit. So let's go ahead and we'll dial in for this game. They'll be ready to go.
So let's talk a little bit about 2 of the cornerbacks. Denzel Ward, we know pretty much when he's on the field, we know what we're going to get. Greg Newsome's making himself some money this year because we're not hearing Greg Newsome's name, which means he's playing pretty well. Let's take a look, though, at the Lions. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, normally in the slot. Man, I'm going to say, Greg, we might need you to kick out there when St. Brown's, because Harden played well, but I don't know that I want to try to make a living defensively doing that.
Yeah, it's tough because, the Lions, to me, they run an offense that is very difficult to deal with because not only do they have two good running backs and they do different things in terms of, it's the cliche thunder and lightning, but, they can run between the tackles. Jahmyr Gibbs is electric. He can catch the ball at the backfield and the best, football catchers out of the backfield. He can go the distance. They can run the ball inside. But the thing that really is scary about them is that, when you got St. Brown, he's a guy that is going to be a tactician in the heart of your defense. And when you have Laporta, who can stretch the defense, who can run down the seam and catch the football, and you have Jamison Williams, who's a speedster that's dynamic on the outside, they got everything covered. They got everything. So, you look up and you look around, and there was a stat we did on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show where right now he's catching 75% of his passes on third down. They're converting to first downs. So that means, and before, this isn't just a one-time thing. In his career since 2021, he's been averaging 63% of his catches are on third down or a first down. So they're looking for him. He's a safety blanket. He's a guy that can work in the middle underneath. He's a route tactician. He's physical. And if you miss a tackle, he can take it to the distance. So it's hard because there's so many other things you gotta really honor. Like you have to honor the fact that they could dice you up with the tight end. You got to honor the fact that they can get deep in the passing game, or they can run multiple sets with just running the football because that's what they want to do preferably too. So the Browns are going to find out. We as fans in the NFL, we are going to find out just how good the Cleveland Browns are, because if they've traditionally not really followed people around. Depending on who you are, they usually just play what they play, and whoever gets, that's what happens, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to figure out if the Browns are that good, because if they don't match him and they don't follow him around and they still shut them down with the variableness of what they can attack you with, the Browns defense is going to be otherworldly. I mean, to be honest with you, but I'm excited to see this matchup because it's really a matchup of one of those things where it's the immovable object versus the however it goes. Unshakable object, more movable force, irresistible. You know how it goes. You know what I mean.
All right, so here's the question. What can the Browns exploit defensively against the Lions offense? You got to get after Goff. You pressure up the middle, and Goff how do you control St. Brown and Laporta? Don't give Goff time to throw.
There it is. When you take a look at it, and there was a statistics that shows the gulf between what he's able to do in his completion percentage with versus under pressure. And so he's 40 or 50% less efficient when he is under pressure. And generally speaking, that works the same way for all offensive threats, especially quarterbacks, because pressure busts pipes. So when you look at it, the Browns have a very unique way that they can pressure people because of the way Malik Collins is playing, because of the way that you're getting Mason Graham. Mason Graham, 43% pass rush win rate last week. You take a look at what he's able to do. Malik Collins was 33%. Now the average in the NFL is 8% maybe. That's great, 7-8%. But these guys are upwards in 30s and 40s, and that's just because you got to block Myles Garrett. So they can get pressure from not only there. Alex Wright had a sack last week. Isaiah McGuire had pressures. So they can get after you from all different angles. It's just not one position. So that's the unique way that the Browns are able to do some things that other teams aren't. They get pressure from every position. They got guys that are quick twitchy, guys that are fast, guys that are explosive, and those guys are in your face right now. So that's the way the Cleveland Browns can get to it. You stop the run. Make sure that you don't have to give them a two-way go in terms of what they can do with play action. And then you got Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward that can lock down half a field. That's what makes the Cleveland Browns so good. And by the way, I've been calling him this. His name is Carson Schlesinger, but he's playing like his name is Carson Matthews. And I know that's high praise around here. But Carson Matthews, I'm telling you, he's looking like one of them guys, like 10 tackles, 11 moving around, sacks last week, and they blitz him a lot too. I look forward to seeing what he's going to do on that turf as well.
Yeah, he's got the wavy California hair look dude going too. So I covered Matthews when he was a rookie. He had a beat-up old Chevy that he drove here, and the fans and media loved him. All right, let's look at this matchup real quick. What are the keys for the Browns? Obviously, it's not going to be easy. Lions are one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best teams in football. What's it look like if the Browns come away and win this? And give me a couple of X factors for the Browns too.
Okay, so this is very easy. How do the Browns? If I wake up tomorrow, say I missed the game, I wake up on Monday and somebody told me the Cleveland Browns won. I would expect to look at the paper and look at the box score and say, "Wow, Joe Flacco turned this back to 2023, didn't he?" We'll take 3 touchdowns and 1 interception and 303 yards passing. That's the way I think this thing goes down. Because here's the thing. You got to think about the Lions. And I know that the Browns are a great defensive team. But if the Lions are coming into this game, they're thinking, if we get 24 points, this is over. It's 20. If we get 24, we know the Browns ain't getting they ain't got 20 in weeks. I haven't seen the Browns get 20 points in a very long time. They were as anemic can get against the Packers. But if Joe Flacco can turn back the hands of time, right? If he can go out there and, in the words of the great Cher, if he could turn back the hands of time and he could give you a way to find out that we can get the ball downfield, he can hit a couple intermediate throws. Hey, how's about rekindling a relationship with Jerry Jeudy that you had with Amari Cooper? I remember a game when you just went off against the Houston Texans, and it seems like he played much more free. Like right now, he's checked down Charlie Brown. That ain't going to get it done. We need those throws from 15 to 25 to keep the defense honest. And then when they do get honest and they have to respect that, guess what? Now you see Quinshon Judkins running the football. If he can get a touchdown on the ground and you can look up and say, oh, he had 114, 115 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 yards per carry. Joe Flacco gave you 2 or 3 touchdowns and 1 I'll take 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, Joe, as long as you're more aggressive than 3.9 average you had last week against the Packers in terms of how far you're throwing the ball downfield. If that happens, the Cleveland Browns are good enough defensively to hold the Lions close to the vest enough where the Browns could potentially come out with a victory if those things happen.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, G.
Appreciate you.
Garrett Bush, make sure you check him out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. Weekends, catch him on the Barber Shop. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break. Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We'll have a film breakdown video analysis of some of the keys for the Browns to beat the Lions. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time to welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Film breakdown, video analysis of some keys to the Browns defeating the Lions and making it 2 in a row. And Lance, Lions, really good team. Let's start. You've got stop the run, be physical, get Goff on his spot. Take us through that and kind of the thoughts there.
Well, the first thing you're going to see is this wide zone. So they do a great job with switching. And now you're going to see at the bottom of the screen here, I'm going to circle defensive tackle who's on the center, and then the 5 technique. And that's a big bubble there you can see between those. So they do a good job of creating bubbles to run at. And then they're really physical. So you got to match that physical identity. And what I mean by this, you're going to see these two receivers block, and then you're going to see Penei Sewell, probably the best tackle in the league, and watch him block down. He's going to take a really good offensive line from the Ravens and block them down. Now, once you stop the run, now you got to get Goff out the spot. You're going to see he does a great job. There's a corner blitz, and he does a great job of a high-low. There's the low receiver, there's the high. Corner sits, he's going to throw it over top. So what you have to do with Goff is you have to get him off his spot because he's throwing at about 77%. And it all starts very much like what the Browns want to do. It starts with this run game. And very much like the Browns, Goff is going to be a statue. He's going to be a standing target. He's very, very good, but he's not a guy you have to worry about running around. So I think that plays into the Browns' hands. I think what they have to do is they have to, after they stop the run, Graham and Collins really have to create inside pressure. If they can create inside pressure and make him reset his feet, that he's not as good. As you can see here, when he gets to set his feet and make reads, this is tough. They roll the cover two. He does a great job of hitting that corner route on the high-low smash concept. They just got to, they have to make sure that it all starts with the run. Dan Campbell's a physical guy, so they got to match that identity, and then they got to move Goff, and they got a chance for sure in this game.
Yeah, and again, you're taking a look at the Ravens defense, which held the Browns in check, but it's kind of interesting. I think when you look at this, the matchup for the Browns defense isn't horrendous when you think about it, because you're right, Goff is not mobile, and that I can't imagine standing back there the way this defensive line is playing and being patient.
Well, and you know the thing about it is that Jim Schwartz is a master of creating matchups, but also bringing blitzes that there's no one left, and you have to get rid of the ball quickly. And part of the mastery behind what he does is getting QB hits and QB pressures, and pressures are more important to me than sacks. Pressure, like you said, gets him off his spot, prevents him from being patient, getting to that second, third read. So those are the things that I think the Browns will do. There's no doubt this Browns defense matches up with every single team they play this year. Without question, I don't care who it is, they will do great. If you think about the first four teams they've played, they've held four really good running backs, including Lamar Jackson in that, to 109 yards on 50 carries. So this team will get after it. Now, this offensive line for the Lions, they're going to have to bring their A game, but I think they will. And Schwartz will find those matchups that benefit the Browns. And remember, Myles Garrett's a matchup problem for anybody.
Well, and this line's a little different. The tackles were pretty good. You mentioned Sewell; he's really good. Their right tackle's a little banged up. He didn't practice yesterday. I think he was back there. New center in the interior is younger. And again, that's not something you want to deal with relative to Malik Collins and Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson, because they will create some problems there.
Well, you just said it too. You mentioned a bunch of different names. So not only are they really talented players, but there's depth there, and they're going to keep running players at you. And Schwartz is going to keep running players at you. And then he's got Schlesinger behind, who's sideline to sideline, can play within the tackles. He's also a great blitzer. He's a sure tackler. So I think the Lions are going to get a much sterner test than they've had the first 3 weeks, because I think this is the best defense, especially the best front seven in the NFL right now. So if they can create some short fields, get the turnover like they did last week, and the offense can kind of get it going just a little bit, they're going to be in this game for sure.
Yeah, and Goff is a guy that when you do pressure him, particularly up the middle, he does throw the ball into harm's way.
Well, and there's nothing worse than A and B gap pressure. Everybody talks about getting hit blindside. When you get hit blindside, you don't even know they're coming, so you're like a rag doll. Those rarely hurt. And those rarely mess up your reads. What messes up your reads is interior pressure in that A and B gap, because your eyes go down to those guys, and you have to move within the pocket. You can't step up in the pocket, which these guys who don't move very well, they like to have those tackles, ride those guys, defensive ends around the end, and then step up. That's impossible to do right now with the Browns, because the interior pressure is as good as the exterior pressure.
All right, second point that the Browns need to do if they're going to beat the Lions: help the tackles on offense. Take us through that.
Well, you got Muhammad and you got Hutch, and you're going to see Hutchinson down here at the bottom. He does a great job of, the tight end's got to, first of all, do a better job, and then you've seen a great spin move inside, which causes the quarterback to roll out. Looks very familiar to the interception that Flacco threw, 2 weeks ago. So what ends up having to happen is that they have to chip, and I think Kevin Stefanski is one of the best chippers in the NFL. You're going to see where the Browns are going to line up with both Njoku and Fannin, or Njoku in the back, and it's going to look like empty, but really what it is, it's two double teams or a chip for the tackles, and they're going to have to help Levinson. They're going to have to help whoever at the other tackle. They're going to have to help these guys. Even Mumford they brought in. These guys are struggling in pass protection. These defensive Muhammad and Hutchinson, they get after it. So they got to chip them, and you got to get rid of the football quick, because you see what happens, even with an elite athlete like Caleb Williams. Bad things happen when you scramble and you're off schedule. So they got to help those tackles regardless of what they're doing. They'll be okay in the run game. Those guys are both physical. Pass game, they got to get help.
Yeah, and again, that's Caleb Williams, who's about 15 years younger than our quarterback, Joe Flacco. So I'm with you. The other thing is, and we've talked about this before, you help them chip, and then you just turn around and let them let Hutchinson and those guys run himself out of the play and get the ball in the hands of Njoku and Fannin with nobody in front of them.
Well, yeah, and I think Jack Campbell is one of the better tackle-to-tackle linebackers in the NFL, but he's not real good in space, which is one of my keys as well. So Anzalone's a good tackler. Barnes has got a little bit of an injury, so they can definitely make some hay on these linebackers. Branch is a really good safety, but Joseph's a guy you can beat in coverage. So, again, I've said it for a couple weeks, the best matchups on offense for the Browns are those tight ends, without question.
All right, our third of the 4 points. Ward travels with St. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, he just finds a way to get open and catch the football.
A really good inside and out guy. You're going to see him down here. They're going to motion. They do a good job of motion. But just like the Browns, they'll be in man coverage, so they run with. And this is where, if the Lions make big plays, they make big plays on first down, play action, and they usually make them to St. Brown. St. Brown is such a good route runner. He can run from inside the slot. He can run from outside. So for me, the Browns haven't done this, and I know they have a lot of faith in Greg Newsome, and Greg Newsome has been playing outstanding. But you got an all-pro corner who I think is just elite in coverage, and I think at some point in time, with the injuries in the secondary, you just say, listen, we're going to put Ward on St. Brown, and we're going to shut him down. And I do think as good as St. Brown is, and he would get some catches, but I think Ward is a great matchup, and I think it's something they got to, especially, maybe not all the time, but in true passing situations, maybe think about Ward traveling with St. Brown, just because St. Brown's such a good route runner, and when they're looking for chunk plays, it's 14 for sure.
Here's the other thing. You see it. They're lining him up. They don't line him up on the outside all the time. What do you do? I mean, are you okay with Ward playing inside, or if he's in the slot? The one thing I don't want to see is Miles Harden trying to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown. To me, that's a lose. Whereas if he's in the slot and you want to put Greg Newsome on him, okay. At least Newsome has played inside before.
Well, the definition of insanity, and I've done this as a coach too, is that you keep going, cover him. You got to cover him, Miles. You got to cover better. Well, I don't know if Miles Harden can do that quite yet. I know he's learning on the run, and I've seen him in camp cover very, very well against Jerry Jeudy and others. So, it's just that game reps and getting ready for it. So if Miles Harden is in the slot and they do put St. Brown there, then they got to immediately give help over the top with that safety. Everybody else has got to kind of be on an island. If you think about it, he's in the slot, Harden's in the slot. Put the free safety over there to help. Allow Newsome and Ward to be in zero coverage on the other guys. So then basically you have double coverage on St. Brown. But they got to help. They can't leave Miles Harden alone, especially if St. Brown's in the slot.
All right, so we alluded to this when we were talking about potentially getting the ball to the tight ends. Next point, the fourth of 4 of them to beat the Lions. Get Jack Campbell, that's one of their linebackers, in space.
Well, he's like 6'5", 250. I loved him out of Iowa. And you're going to see him right here. He's not necessarily man coverage, but this is where he struggles. He's in space, he's out on an island, and then he's got to kind of react. And that's not what he does. And so right now with the Bears, they're going to run a little crossing route here, and they do a great job of just kind of isolating him. And it's not really his guy. He's in a zone coverage there, but you can see his lack of ability to kind of turn and run and be sudden and twitchy. If you think of like J.O.K. and Schlesinger, that's not his style. He's a big thumper. He's 6'5", he's 250 pounds. He likes to play tackle to tackle. When the Browns run power and Browns run the ball inside, he'll make a lot of plays this Sunday. But I think the number one matchup for the Browns to be successful this week is both Njoku and Fannin, and you get them isolated on Jack Campbell in space. That's a matchup the Browns absolutely have the advantage in. So I look for this. This is just a simple crossing route, but these are the kind of things the Browns run as well. And I think if you can just get him isolated, he's going to be in trouble in space because that's not his strength.
So is this a defense that you can screen with? Because obviously you've got Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford. They use Jerome Ford more than Sampson. My guess is that's because of his ability to block, to pick up blitzes and to help in the pass game blocking.
Well, it's really interesting. So they got Tyleik Williams, who, if you remember last year, you and I talked about Ohio State, 340 pounds. I had him right behind Mason Graham on my board as defensive tackle. So he's an elite defensive tackle. Then they got DJ Reader, who was with the Bengals for a long time, with the Texans. So those guys are both 330 pounds. So they don't rush the passer really well. They rely on those defensive ends, Mohammed and Hutchinson, to get pressure. I think what really works is getting in 12 personnel. Because those guys don't run so much, maybe some outside screens would work. Inside screens, those defensive tackles won't be getting upfield too much. But I do think what works is getting in empty. If you get in empty, now you can isolate Campbell, you can isolate Barnes, you can isolate Joseph, the safety. You can get those guys isolated where you want. And Kevin Stefanski is a master of finding matchups in that 12 personnel, because Dan Campbell's a tough guy. When Browns go 12 personnel, they're going to be 3 linebackers in the game. That's where the Browns can win.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you have Sampson, Fannin, and Njoku, or Ford, Njoku, and Fannin, I would assume Campbell has to cover one of them if you're in empty.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, it's when they got Judkins too. That's one. Judkins catches the ball well too. All those guys catch the ball well, even if they're in third down. And Jerome Ford now, I think Ford is going to be a really good football player for the Browns now, because he's going to be in his role. His role will be third down. He's outstanding in pass protection. He's really good at running routes. So if they're in true third down situations, they can block him with Ford because he's big and thick enough, or they can isolate him. So all those backs can do it. Even if you come out with Judkins and you want to show first down and you want to get an empty, there's just some things they can do with these guys. Underneath coverage is where the Lions are weak, in my opinion, just because they're big, tough guys, and they kind of fit the mold of their coach. They're mentally tough, and they're just good football players, but they can be had in the pass game.
Lance Ross, is always great stuff. Tell folks where they can hear you leading up to kickoff. 92.3 The Fan, tell us about the show you are a part of.
Yeah, I work on the Tailgate Show on 92.3, usually with Jonathan Peterlin. Jonathan has just had his second child, so he'll be out. So I'll be in with Jake Volnick this week from 10 to 12:50. Jake and I will get you ready for the game. We'll do keys to the game, some offense and defense scouting reports, and just kind of get you ready for the Browns versus Lions, tell you about the Lions a little bit. Every week from 10 to 12:50. Obviously, the week of the London game will be on bright and early. But like I said, every week we're on, and it's a lot of fun. And tune in and see what we got going on.
Lance Roslin, is always great stuff. Appreciate it. We will talk to you next week. Thanks, Lance.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Lance Roslin, make sure you check him out. Tailgate on 92.3 The Fan leading up to kickoff. You can also check him out, Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Dalton Wasserman from PFF straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, guys. I think it's time for the laser eyes Andrew Berry to lock his sights in on Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not being used correctly in Arizona, and I don't know exactly what their plan is for him, but if I'm Andrew Berry, I'm calling the Cardinals to see what it would take to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Just my thoughts. Hopefully we'll get a win at Detroit this week. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Dalton Wasserman, PFF data analyst, co-host of the PFF College Football Show. Dalton, we got that before yesterday, and Harrison did score a touchdown, got involved late, but you could see the frustration. It's not going well for Harrison in Arizona.
No, it isn't. And look, there is a laundry list of things. We could do a whole show about what's wrong with the Arizona Cardinals offense, but that caller is probably a year or two too early, right? When you talk about Harrison and he was a fourth overall pick and how important he is to the Cardinals. And yes, the Browns need wide receiver help, but they're more likely going to get it in this coming draft in 2026 anyway. I think Harrison is too important to the Cardinals to to think about moving him or anything like that. He is struggling for sure, as is their whole offense, but a little premature on those talks.
Yeah, again, still a lot of times third year is where wide receivers figure out what's going on, and you've got the added issue with the quarterback play and all that stuff. All right, let's move on to the Browns and their defense. You take a look at this, and this is from PFF. Browns have the two highest graded defensive linemen so far this year. Myles Garrett, 91.4. Malik Collins, 90.8. Then you got Hayward, and then Aiden Hutchinson. So three of the top four are going to be on the field at Ford Field Sunday at 1 o'clock. How good has this Browns defensive line been?
The entire defense has been spectacular, Dave. When you think about, they are by far our highest graded defense right now in the NFL. The problem is they are the lowest graded offense. So and you think about that in the context of not only are they the highest graded, but they have the most obstacles to overcome when it comes to their offense, putting them in bad spots. I thought, and I know the score was a blowout, but I don't even think the defense played that bad a game against the Baltimore Ravens in week 2. And this defensive line's a huge reason for it. Myles Garrett, Malik Collins, like you mentioned, is having a career season so far. Mason Graham has been solid. I like Isaiah McGuire. And then even at the second level, what Devin Bush and Carson Schlesinger are doing, dominating at the linebacker position, I really believe it's a very good argument, and the numbers bear it out right now. The Browns might have the best defense in football.
So you look at that, and you mentioned the offense, which is graded low. They're struggling on first down, and they don't have the explosive players to come back from that. If you're at 2nd and 8 with what you have, you're going to be pushing a boulder uphill all game long.
Absolutely. And one of the good signs is that Quinshon Judkins broke out last week with, 92 rushing yards he had, which helps in the run game, obviously. But the biggest problem with the Browns and their offense is the passing game lacking explosiveness. One, because they just don't have a ton of speed. And two, they don't have the pass protection for Joe Flacco to stand back there long enough and throw it downfield. So much of the production is yards after catch or whatever they can get out of the run game. They have to basically drag these teams into ball control, defensive type games where they can win them 13-10, 17-13, things like that, because they just don't have a whole lot of home run hitters and they don't have the pass protection right now to allow time for that.
All right, along those lines, what's the formula if the Browns are going to pull second upset in 2 weeks over really good teams from the NFC?
First things first, and it's something the Browns have done great through the first 3 weeks. They got to stop the run between the tackles. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL in stopping teams between the tackles, especially on early downs. The Lions have found their footing on the offensive line, a dominant performance against Baltimore with a ton of rushing yards right between the tackles, right down their throat. That's the first part where the Browns really need to get in there and compete and stop those early down runs that the Lions are getting downhill on teams right now. You saw it against Baltimore. It was the reason they won that football game on Monday night. So that's really step one. And then step two is just don't turn the ball over and keep yourself in that mistake-free defensive kind of game. If you can keep it under that 20 to 21 point mark and not let the Lions get that momentum with the run game and the play action, then you talk about a scenario where maybe the Browns have a chance again.
All right, let's turn our attention to the college game. Ohio State has to travel cross-country to face the Washington Huskies. What are you paying attention to in this matchup? Do you expect the Buckeyes to get pushed in this game?
I think they very well could get pushed, because Washington has a dangerous offense, especially in their backfield and their run game, with Damon Williams at quarterback and Jonah Coleman, a star running back who's very hard to tackle. And keep in mind, too, the Huskies have not lost a true home game since the end of the 2021 season. So it's a hard place to go in and win on the road. And the biggest thing I'm looking for is Julian Sayin. Okay, he's been the most accurate quarterback in the country by our metrics so far. He was solid in the Texas game, given a difficult circumstance against that defense. And then he's torn
torn the last two opponents to shreds. I want to see if Sand can keep his composure in his first road start and really just in a tough environment. If this game gets to be high scoring, can he match Washington answer for answer on the offensive side? He's obviously got the great receiving core. Their offensive line and run game's been good too, but Sand's under pressure now in his first true road start.
You mentioned the running back, a guy that can beat you with his legs. That could be that isn't something that the Buckeyes have had to face yet this year.
Right, and look, Arch Manning, even from week one, he's a good athlete. Damon Williams is a special athlete. He is a dual threat guy who can house a run on any play. You let him get outside the pocket scrambling, he's a real problem. And then even in the option game, him and Jonah Coleman back there, that's one of the most dynamic backfield tandems in the country. The Buckeyes are going to have to put a big emphasis on stopping the run. I'm looking at Sonny Styles and those linebackers being in the spotlight this week.
All right, another big game in the Big Ten, no pun intended. Oregon at Penn State. How important is this game for the Nittany Lions, and especially quarterback Drew Aller, a local kid? He's from Medina up this way.
It's extremely important for Penn State, and I don't think there's a player in the country with a bigger spotlight on him than Drew Aller, because he's got the reputation of folding in big games, and these wide receivers, we don't actually know if they're good yet. And honestly, against lesser competition, Penn State's offense has not looked great in their first three games. They need to get it together on offense in time to beat a really good and red-hot Oregon squad. Penn State, they don't have a lot of other wins, on their schedule to make up. It's a soft out-of-conference schedule. They have this game. They have the Ohio State game and the Indiana game. 10-2 probably still gets them in, but if they get off on the wrong foot in this game and then they have to beat both Indiana and Ohio State, it could be a tough task for them getting to the playoff if they lose this one.
So Oregon kind of reloading. What do they have? What do the Ducks have coming back?
Reloading for sure. Their offensive line looks fantastic with some transfer guys coming in there. Dan Lanning's putting the defense together. And the biggest piece is that Dante Moore, through his first few games, has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And, that was the big question for Oregon, was their passing game. You just had two Heisman finalists in a row, and Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel both graduate at quarterback back-to-back. Well, all of a sudden, through his first few games, Dante Moore is playing like he could make it a third year in a row like that. If he goes out there against Penn State in the whiteout at Happy Valley and he tears them up, Moore is going to enter that Heisman conversation.
All right, another one, an SEC matchup, Georgia-Alabama. What do you expect in there, and do you ever read it all on Alabama?
I'll be honest with you, in this game, this matchup specifically, they're both good, they're both very talented teams, but this is maybe the hardest game to read of the whole weekend because you've got two teams in very similar spots. Their defenses are talented, but there's some flaws. Their offenses both have first-year starting quarterbacks who are playing in big, big spots right now. We saw Gunnar Stockton come through at Tennessee. That's a massive win for him and his confidence, but I really feel like this game is going to come down to who runs the football better. I think both quarterbacks could go out there and play well, but who can control the pace of the game? And Alabama, look, they got to play more disciplined football. Even in some of their wins, I see moments where they don't play with enough discipline. Kirby Smart and Georgia right now, they're the masters of discipline and not beating themselves, but they've both shown bits of weakness this year. This is a huge game, especially for Alabama. They do not want to be 2-2 to start out and be behind the 8 ball when it comes to the playoff race.
All right, obviously, folks in Cleveland paying attention to some college quarterbacks. Who has grabbed your attention, and who do you think can continue or can elevate into, where you would think a team will make them an early first-round pick?
I think a couple of guys have impressed me so far, if you're just talking about the first few weeks of the season here. Dante Moore at Oregon is a guy people are going to start talking about for sure. I think especially if he wins this week in Penn State, that's going to be a big conversation. Fernando Mendoza in the game that he had for Indiana last week against Illinois, another good test against Iowa this week, and he's going to see all of the really good defenses in the Big Ten. Mendoza's a name to keep an eye on. And then, I think another guy who's intrigued me and who's having a bounce back year, Carson Beck at Miami. Look, he's having an awesome year for the Hurricanes. He understands the assignment. I think he is certainly a professional quarterback in some sense, but we'll see how the rest of the year goes when it comes to him possibly being a first-round pick.
We talked a little bit about Aller. Is that a guy that if he goes out and plays, when you look at Aller, he's got the big arm, he's got the big, he's a 6'5", he's put together. He has the prototypical quarterback build. If he goes out and puts together a couple of games, is he another guy that can rise?
Absolutely, absolutely. He's a guy. There's 4 or 5 guys in the country right now, Dave, that they have the talent, they have the tools. They are almost. It's almost like the idea of a franchise quarterback. Drew Aller, Lenora Sellers, Sam Levitt at Arizona State. There's certain guys that are so toolsy and they have so much potential, but they have to overcome these flaws. And again, I think Aller, this is such a big week for him because so many people think of him as, in the big moments. Is he going to fold or is he going to come through for them against Oregon, against Indiana, against Ohio State? When it gets to maybe playoff games, is Drew Aller going to come through and be accurate enough in those moments? Because the tools are all out, they're all there. He's athletic enough, he's big enough, he's got a huge arm. We know he's got first-round tools, but he's got to go out there and execute. That mission really starts this week. His first 3 games don't show you a whole lot because of the opponents. His mission starts this week. If he plays well in this Oregon game, he's going to move up those boards.
Historically, is this the time of year where that quarterback class kind of starts to take shape a little bit? I know it changes even after the season when you get to the combine, but is this where you start to see some of the guys separate when you get towards conference play in the middle of the season?
Yeah, because you get to see him against real opponents, right? Same thing. Aller, in those scenarios. Fernando Mendoza, that's why, take a guy like him who got his first real test with Illinois last week and passed with flying colors. Indiana didn't play anybody the first 3 weeks. You get out of the soft landing, out of conference schedules. You get into the big games where you get these big matchups against top 10 and top 20 defenses. That's when you want to see it happen, right? And there's certain guys that are going to fold, and there's certain guys who are going to rise up and carry their team through it and possibly win a championship. So I think this really is the time of year where you look at some of these matchups and go, all right, this is prove it time now. I think for the 2 guys in that Penn State-Oregon game, I think about Ty Simpson for Alabama going against Georgia. There's games like that even this week where you go, all right, let's see it. Are you just okay, or are you really, really good against good opponents?
Dalton Wasserman, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Dalton.
Appreciate it as always, Dave. Thank you.
Dalton Wasserman, make sure you check him out. PFF data analyst, co-host of the PFF College Football Show. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. We will be talking Browns and Lions. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports4CLE.